No, not the preamble again. Chapter 34. God's power in creation. From his book, new book, dictated to me, the righteous servant Mashiach, the man of Isaiah 11 and 53. There's more information on that in prior videos. I'm getting real weary of going back over them. Just as he dictated the Torah to Moses, Moses couldn't possibly have been able to write those 5 books. The knowledge was just far above him. I mean, he was raised as a prince in Egypt. And the only gods he heard of, I guess, were cats or something. Whatever the Egyptian belief was. It was several years later, but still. He had run away from Egypt because he had killed a man in anger, and instead of repenting to Pharaoh and begging for his life, he ran. And so we're ready to begin. Oh, and God also, his spirit lit upon, and God is in his spirit, and that's when you can hear him speak. You find that in Ezekiel also. That's how God talks to a man. He basically enters you along with the angel of his presence, the Holy Spirit, who is a person. Judaism doesn't seem to think so, which is ridiculous. He talks in the Hebrew Bible. He can be grieved. He can get angry if you disobey God and not forgive you. I mean, it's even part of his personality. But he dictated to each of the individual prophets of the book of the prophets, there's about 20, their books. Write this down. Command and direction. And that can be verified. The way they go together. To know this is the day of the Lord, and it is, you have to kind of put together Isaiah 11 and 53, Jeremiah 31, all of Ezekiel, and Malachi 3, where the day of the Lord is announced. With significant changes. From 7 prophets talked about the day of the Lord. It's supposed to be a day where evil and sin is banished from the earth. And so you're left with nothing but righteous people. Which is where I guess this Messianic era concept began. But really it was just mainly written for the people of antiquity. It's never going to happen. How could that happen? How can that happen? It can't. I don't care, but you can say, well, Armageddon. No. But his last words on the subject are, I know many do not heed me and revere my name. In Israel, only 30% of the Jewish people are observant to his laws. And Bram says Moshiach will have all of Israel walking in Torah. And they teach that. And perfect the world, which I guess means world peace. Really? Moshiach's going to bring world peace. Huh. I think I'm going to cause a big disturbance is what I think. If anything, there's going to be a jihad declared against me by the Muslims for saying I'm the last prophet of God. This is not Muhammad. That's a blasphemy to Muhammad followers right there. Yeah, jihad, where it goes out. If you see this man, if I give you a picture, probably kill him. Do I look worthy? God's with me. He'll know if I'm walking into a trap. And maybe that's the way he takes me out. Yeah, he's going to determine when I die. Moses was a person who murdered a man in anger, hid the body, and when discovered became frightened and ran from his crime. And then became, at the end of his days, a person more humble than any other man at the end of his life. He was chosen above all mankind, achieving a greater knowledge of the Almighty than anyone before. He's been with me 16 years now. I know him well. I don't understand a thing he does. I don't know why he's doing these things to me. I just know what they are. I just know he does it, and I just endure. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, I'm always in pain somewhere. Primarily over here and in my jaw joint, my TMJ. So Moses was a man like Ezekiel in that his spirit could become infuriated, furious, and bitter. To calm the spirit of Ezekiel, God pinned him to the ground for 430 days. Hands handcuffed behind him so he couldn't roll over from side to side. He had to stay on one side for like 380 days. And he got to roll over for 40 days for the punishment for sins of the house of Judah. The 380 days, I think that's what it is, was for the house of Israel, the northern kingdom, where they really must have been doing some sin. It wasn't vicarious suffering. It was supposedly a punishment on this priestly man who had been trying to get the house of Israel and Judah to stop sinning his whole life. And now he's being told he's going to suffer equally with their punishment. Their punishment was defeat and being deported to Babylon, and which would be Iraq and Iran. I don't know if Babylon went that far. Any event, they got deported out of the promised land. And Ezekiel was one of them. He's being made a prophet. He's going through the fire of refinement to be a prophet to the Assyrian, Babylonian exiles. You could also call them the Assyrian, Babylon, Persia exiles, because Persia defeated Babylon. A man does not go from being hot-tempered enough to kill another man to the most humble man on earth by being the leader of hundreds of thousands of men and women. 600,000 men and their families were in the Exodus and known to converse with God. That enlarges the ego of a man, if anything, and is not a humbling experience. To be known by everybody? In some manner not spoken of in the Torah, Moses was put through God's fire of refinement, of punishment and chastisement, just as Ezekiel was, Jonah, Job, to be suitable for his purposes, as all of God's prophets are to one extent or another. Yeah, God's a strong believer in suffering. It's just good for you. It makes you stronger, wiser, humble, have a little humility. It is his way of preparing them for his purposes, from simply writing his words to being leaders of men. God's righteous servant of Isaiah 53, that would be me, is the prophet like Moses, who endures chastisement, punishment, maltreatment, crushing, and bruising by the hand of God, his words and his power, in God's fire of refinement, which I call God's boot camp for prophets, likened to a cadet who goes through boot camp to become a Green Bay Marine or a Navy SEAL. As I understand, that's very, very tough 6 months or so. I'm like, 6 months? I'll take that over being with God. Or being in God's fire of refinement. No, nobody would turn this down. And frankly, he doesn't let you. Ezekiel didn't get a choice. God said, he says, a spirit seized me, and I went in the bitterness and fury of my spirit in the hand of God. And you think being in the hand of God means everything's going smooth for you. But he's bitter and furious. You know why? Because God sees him. The Spirit is the Holy Spirit, the angel of his presence. And God is in him. And now they're both in Ezekiel. And he can hear God's words, as he tells us. He's in the fire of refinement. I've been furious so many times they can't be counted. And bitter. Yeah, I'm bitter right now. I'm so tired of this. Yeah. Okay. It is his way of preparing them for his purposes. God incites and brings out emotions with chastisement and punishment and calms the spirit of a man in his words and power. It humbles a man. When God uses his power to change the spirit of a living man in his creation in the fire of refinement, it is not to be taken lightly. God enjoys watching creation unfold naturally, as he knew it would, and not as he can make it happen, not changing it in his power. That is nothing to him. If he thinks it and wills it, it is. He thought through humanity from its beginning with Adam to the end. Whatever that is, we don't know what the end is. It's a safe bet it's going to happen one day. If nothing else, the sun will go out. When God uses his power to change the spirit and soul of a living man in his creation, I just read that. Yeah, he thought it all through. Okay, next chapter. Chapter 35. Stirring the spirit of armies. Wow. Yeah, we've already, this memory card, this is my old memory card. It seems to be going a lot longer. But I gotta reset it for every book. Means I gotta go through the preamble at the beginning again. I've done it 34 times now. It's called Stirring the Spirit of Armies. If you like the one you just watched, you'll really want to watch this next one.